This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Adam Smith over Zoom. Adam, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Andy. We're all healthy in our house, which is the main thing, I guess. And touching base now with family, getting to see one or two of the more elderly relatives, in-laws, parents, and it's good. We're trying to sort of keep communicative, keep a smile on our face, keep positive. Trying to get the kids to be nice and not just sort of fight when they, when they don't like something. And schoolwork's difficult. That's hard. 3 different personalities all being homeschooled for a number of weeks now. So there's a lot of things spinning around. Obviously, huge amounts to talk about on a daily basis in the boxing world. The return to the sport, and then generally on Sky Sports as well, and how each different sport will come back, what we're doing in the meantime, all the sort of watch-alongs and the Zooms and all of that, as you said, and the debates and everything we can do to try and make content at this time. And there's a lot of challenges, a lot of technical challenges, which the teams have been working really hard on. And it's not really business as usual. It's very different business, but it's fascinating. It's exciting on a daily basis. But I'm sure, like you, I'm missing the live sport. I'm missing the live events. I'm missing the people, the fans, everything, and the travel, the experiences, of course. But it's good sometimes to reset, and I think that's what we've done, all of us. And I've touched base with many different fighters, many different people around the boxing world, and others too, and friends and family. And it's been a time none of us are ever going to forget. And hopefully, we can all move through this really difficult period in everyone's lives and stay safe.
100%, Adam. And obviously, I know you've got a few things to do after this, so we'll kind of try to work through it so I don't keep you on for too long beyond what you can do. Obviously, the government recently, they've started to ease certain restrictions that are in place for us all, telling us what we can and can't do. How has that kind of impacted, your role and your team's role now? How are you kind of you going back to the offices or not? How has work changed since the last lot of instructions the government gave out?
Well, first thing, Andy, I was delighted that they allowed us to play tennis again. So I was back on court at the weekend. I'm not a great player, but I love it. So that was good from a personal point of view. And I hope you've managed to get out and do some more exercise and all that. So yeah, the ease of the restrictions is obviously helpfful. We all know it's going to be a long and gradual process. Seems now that you can pretty much go outside, and you'll continue to be able to go outside. And I'm sure that you'll be able to meet more people and all of that side. So, Eddie's idea of the boxing in the garden at a Matchroom is fantastic. It's innovative. It's clever. It's going to be, some way to come back to boxing. Obviously, it's all going to be very different because we're going to be behind closed doors in every sport for the foreseeable future. So it's going to be something we've all got to get used to, but we've got to try and come back in as best way we can. As far as we go at Sky, everybody pretty much is working from home. There's some essential workers obviously in the studios and also the engineers on the road, the contact centres, all the sort of customer service group type of the business, part of the business, who are doing so well on the front line. A lot of people helping out as well with the NHS, and that's really good to hear. And I think it will be a slow move, a patient move back into the offices. There'll be a lot of guidelines, there'll be a lot of restrictions and social distancing, and rightly so. So just like on the outside, really, it's going to be tough getting inside back to the buildings. But we've got a great camaraderie at Sky, and there's a great campus there waiting for us to go back. But I think it will be in spits and spurts, and I don't think anyone will be rushing back in, and people are sort of getting used to working from home, and maybe that will become a little bit more of the norm in the months to come, that we'll do maybe some work at home and some in the office and some on out at events. There'll be less people at events, obviously numbers will be kept down, so it depends really where you can do your work. But I think what some people are finding is that you don't have a long commute into the office, out into Isleworth. Some people come from a long way away. I'm quite near, so it's different. For me, it's a big commute to get over to Matchroom, to Essex. But I tell you what, I can't wait to be there when boxing starts up. And I'm sure that will come probably, July or August.
Let's obviously get into boxing starting back up. We've all seen, the British Boxing Board of Control's guidelines for when shows can return and what shows can and can't have around them. What did you make of the guidelines the British Boxing Board of Control set out?
Yeah, I'm very close to Robert Smith. I admire him a great amount. I think he does a wonderful job at the board. And, the most important thing is the fighter's health and safety, and obviously the event's health and safety for everyone that's involved in it. And, that's first and foremost. And I think with boxing, it's tricky because it's a dangerous sport, A, and B, more medical assistance is needed at ringside in case of things going wrong, which is important to have, the doctors, the anaesthetists, and obviously in the weeks that have gone, they've been so overworked, the whole NHS. And I guess as that starts to calm down, although, it's going to be difficult because doctors are going to need a break. And, this is a mental and physical journey for so many people, and especially those on the front line. So I think, that sort of the care of doctors and medics, especially, making sure that they're doing the key work in hospitals before they come anywhere near sporting events. So we need them for boxing, obviously. So that's a big stipulation. We have to sort of see where we are in the coming weeks. But yeah, things like, only a certain amount of bouts to begin with, only, certain people around the event. And that's just, that's common sense. And I think that we've got to, stick to the guidelines. Robert and I have spoken, and I think he wants to sort of, like he should do, bring it back slowly. I think everybody wants to bring it back with, the razzmatazz. I'm sure Eddie's working on that. Frank's working on that. Everyone wants to come back with something different. And I think the key is that in a way, we've all sort of got to work together here to make sure that, we get that medical team that can work. And, maybe we're coming back in Essex. I'm not sure where Frank's ideas are, but if their studio shows or their shows are on the sort of that side of London, maybe, you can use the same medics, and maybe we don't go up against each other, because then the events can sort of breathe, and we can take one at a time. It's things like that although everybody wants to get competitive again and get the best fights on, and of course that's the thing that everyone wants to see, the fans want to see. We love competition, we embrace that, and we love big fights. But I think it's a case of we just have to have a little bit of patience, and in boxing we don't like that, do we? We like to drive ourselves forward. We like to be the first. We like the unpredictability, the drama of it all. But I think there's a health and safety aspect here for everybody that's working on the shows, not just the fighters taking part, but which of their teams are going to be allowed in. Is it just one trainer, one cornerman? Is it going to be more? Are they going to have a trainer that does the cuts? There's lots of things. Will there be? So it sounds like an MC won't be there in the ring, but obviously there'll be a referee. Will the judges be virtual? Will they be there? How many commentators do we have? Those little things have still got to be worked out, but I think it will be kept to a minimum, and it will be obviously very much health and safety conscious, and there'll be testing, there'll be sterile environments, and there'll be a lot of rules to go through before we can come back. And when we come back, it's got to be safe and sound for everybody, because that's the most important thing. And then we build from there, and we all know crowds are a long way off yet, and maybe we'll be able to get small numbers back by the end of the year. My guess is that the big sort of arena and stadium shows won't really happen until 2021, and that seems to be around the world at the moment. But it's a case. It's a changing picture on a daily basis, so we have to wait and see, and just adhere to the government guidelines, and in our sport adhere to the boxing board, and they're terrific. So they'll tell us when we can go.
We've obviously heard and seen Eddie's fight camp plans to have shows on in the Matchroom HQ back garden, if you'd like to call it that. What did you first make of Eddie's proposal when he put to you, and what do you feel the biggest obstacles would be to have them hosted at Matchroom HQ?
He's relentless, isn't he, Eddie? And I love it. I love him for that. It's an incredibly innovative idea. It's intuitive. It's a brilliant one that was drummed up by the great people that work at Matchroom. I've been over there many times. It's a fantastic space. We even had Barry Hearns' 70th birthday there, and these huge marquees. It overlooks the city, and it's just a great space. And I think in the summer, if we're fingers crossed going to get the sort of weather we're getting at the moment, and even nicer maybe for considerable weeks over July and August. I mean, what better place would it be to bring boxing? We've got to have a safe environment. As I said, that's the most important thing. But I was over there a few weeks back before lockdown, and I was looking around thinking, God, this would be amazing if you could have a fight here or something. I wasn't even thinking that it would be professional fights. I was just thinking, we've had rings there before, we've had barbecues and all sorts. I was just thinking, wow, they were filming the Fighting Fit shows, and I was just thinking, what, this would be incredible for a fight one day to take place here, maybe with sort of select you know, customers or clients, or whatever, that come. It's almost like a black tie thing. That's what I was thinking. And anyway, I sort of forgot about it. And then suddenly Eddie ran up and said, "Oh, I've got this great idea. We're going to do fight camp, blah, blah, blah." And, you know, I mean, we talk every day, and he's you know, he's not struggling. I mean, he's doing his bit of homeschooling, but he wants to get back in. Trust me, he wants to get back into the live events, and, you know, he wants to make a difference. And it is a difference. It's financially difficult, and we all have to look at that and make sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed before we announce anything. But I think we will come back in fight camp way, you know, probably, as I said, in July, maybe late July, August, but that sort of time for the summer, and have a real crack at a few shows. I think it will be fantastic. And, you know, I hope Frank's cooking up something as well with BT and their stable of fighters. And let's hope we come back with boxing as with other sports, but, you know, with something different. I think, you know, with the fact that there's obviously going to be no fans, you know, different sports are going to come back in different ways. And boxing, you know, has that sort of obviously real quality, you know, the two gladiators in the ring. And, you know, if you'll be able to really hear the corner sound, really, you know, really getting almost closer than you've ever been before, it'll be fascinating. It'll be very different for the fighters, and very different for the media, very different for the fans watching at home. But listen, it's changing times, and we've got to adapt. So yeah, very excited about it.
Obviously, you know, there's going to be no more than 5 fights according to the British Boxing Board of Control's guidelines, and no championship clashes with that in mind. So what type of fights do you anticipate we would see when shows do start to return?
I think Robert's made it clear, you know, we start slowly and we build up to big fights. I'm sure we'll have championship and world title fights before we know it. But, you know, that's still, I think, to be, you know, discussed. There's still weeks ahead. You know, we're not in any rush, I don't think, here. You know, we've got to look at the other sports. You know, for Sky, we've held subscriptions, we've frozen subscriptions. So we obviously want to see when the Premier League are coming back. And if that happens, as is anticipated sometime in June, then I think football leads the way. And then maybe cricket will follow, and Formula One and golf, and, you know, those sports. And then I think we should sort of, you know, tuck in behind. You know, it's important for us to get everything right before we go, if you know what I mean. I think there's a lot of hurdles. You know, people want boxing straight away. We all do. Andy, we want it back. You know, we miss it. We crave it. You know, I was speaking to Tyson Fury this week, Katie Taylor last week, Dillian White. You know, they're all just, you know, they're all training. They're all chomping at the bit to be back. Anthony Joshua even wants to fight in the Garden. But, you know, it's like, and that's not Madison Square Garden. That's Eddie's Garden. You know, it's everyone, all the fighters want to come back. And of course, at every level, they want to be paid. They need to carry on. And inactivity is a big thing. We're in Mental Health Awareness Week at the moment. And, you know, we were talking to some of our Sky scholars on the Zoom calls today. And, you know, it's difficult for these athletes. You know, they're having a chunk of their career just put on pause, put on hold. But I think the key is to stay mentally and physically strong, and then use this time to sort of better yourself. And actually, when they come back, they'll be ahead of the curve. And I have no doubt, Andy, that the fighters will come back better than almost any other sportsmen and women. I really do. I think they'll be ready to go. We just have to get everything right as safely as we can do, and as best as we can from a television point of view and a media point of view too, to make it a great experience for everybody coming back. So I think a little bit of patience. I'm sure one or two things will change, and there'll be a lot of talk between the promoters and the board about what can't happen. And, you know, we'll get there. But I think it's maybe starting slow and building up. But we'll get the big fights back pretty soon.
You mentioned obviously earlier on about there's going to be no fans, which we all know will be the case for the foreseeable future. With that in mind, obviously we've recently seen the UFC shows where they had no fans. What did you make of their events?
Yeah, different, eerie, wasn't it? Eerie atmosphere. The commentators, you know, could be heard, and obviously the fighters could adapt to that. They had one failed test, I think, of COVID, so that, you know, that was the thing. I mean, almost like it was a way of sort of seeing what was going to happen. I mean, they came back very quickly, didn't they? And there was criticism over it, but it did well in buys. And obviously, people want sport. They want, you know, entertainment, don't they? And I think that's what people are craving. You know, they've spent family time. They've adhered to the rules. You know, pretty much. You know, everybody's doing so well in this lockdown period, but, you know, we miss sport, don't we? And sport is entertainment. Almost everything on a sort of Saturday and Sunday seems to be sort of strange at the moment, because you're going out without really sort of knowing what to do. You're going to a park or whatever. It's nice time if it's nice weather. I mean, could you imagine if this this period had been over sort of the autumn, winter, it would have been much, much harder. At least we've got that outdoor space to go to. But people are missing sort of tuning in on the TV and finding the sports schools and looking at live sport. There's nothing like live sport. We can all recollect about, the great nights of Diego Corrales and Jose Luis Castillo, recent anniversary. Next week it's Froch Groves at Wembley. We can all sort of think back to those great nights and stop and think about how we're going to come back and try and get better, because we always try and get better. But at the same time, it's a frustrating period for people, and we want that again. We want it badly. So the UFC have come back, and I'm sure there were some learnings from it, but it happened. It was an event, and it was very popular to watch. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, UFC, but hopefully, every sport will get a bigger drive, certainly from a TV, radio, broadcasting audience, because people can't actually get to the venues. But it's gonna affect it. You look at Josh Warrington, our recent signing, a re-signing for Matchroom, fantastic fighter. We had him on the boxing show last week, wonderful guy. Part of his charm is that he sells, half of the league's population come to the fights. He personally sells his tickets, and that's obviously going to be very different for him, and very different for making his big fights. They've got to come under a different way financially and economically. It's tricky, and it's economically difficult times for everybody at the moment. And how a ticket's going to be priced as and when crowds do come back. So there's a lot in the pot at the moment. But I think the good news is, Andy, sport is coming back. We're not there yet, but we're only weeks away.
Final thing on this before I do move on to my final topic. Obviously, we know no fans, which will be a big loss for the revenue that can be made at shows. Given the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic or in lockdown, is there risks that Sky will have to cut their boxing budget, or how are you guys going to work the finances around everything?
Well, I think that everybody's going to have to look at the finances. I've got friends who are actors, friends in entertainment, in restaurant business and exhibition worlds, and there's all sorts of difficulties going on in all of those areas at the moment. The one thing we know within sport is that sport will come back because people want sport. So that's the good news. As I say, we are coming back again, but it will be financially difficult, and we're talking a lot every day with Eddie and obviously, our leadership team are talking to the different rights holders, the Premier League, the EFL, the Formula One, and ECB, and all of those, to make sure that everyone tries to support each other through this time. We've got great partnerships, and that's why our partnership with Matchroom is so important to us. It goes back to before when I even joined, and I'm coming up to 26 years in Sky now, Andy. So that goes back. Barry Hearn and Vic Wakeling go back beyond me, and we've seen it all come through with the darts and with the pool and with the Fisher Mania, and obviously the boxing. And Eddie's taken the boxing to a new level. But we have that great relationship with Matchroom. So we talk daily. They want to. They've got a business, we've got a business, we try and help each other. But obviously, we're all going to have to look at it, fighters as well. And it may be that, purses aren't quite the same for everybody. And money is harder. And you've got to look at the fans. As I said, it's going to be tough coming out of the lockdown for everybody. Businesses are being really affected. Are we going to get the sort of groundswell of fans straight back? And how are they going to be priced? And what are we going to price our events? All that sort of thing. We've got to look at all of that. But there's a lot of work behind the scenes going on, and we'll come back, and there'll be probably a bit of compromise on everyone's side. And the key is we get back, and we get back safely, and we will.
So my final topic then, Adam, I just wanted to touch on that the undisputed heavyweight title fight that everybody's desperate to see at some point in the near future, Joshua Fury. There was a lot of back and forths probably a few weeks ago now between Eddie, Bob Arum, Frank about whether or not conversations did take place about step aside money, if negotiations had gone on. What's your knowledge of that entire situation?
Well, I'm an outsider to that. I hear various things, Andy, as I'm sure you do. I spoke to Tyson this week. I obviously speak regularly to AJ, Eddie, etc. And I'm very positive that the fight will happen. I think that providing Anthony gets past Kubrat Pulev, and obviously Tyson told me this week, if Deontay Wilder knocks me out, then there's going to be another fight there. So if you've got two semi-finals, so to speak, this is where obviously upsets can happen still. If Anthony Joshua gets past Kubrat Pulev, and I'm sure that fight will happen at some point this year, as will the Fury Wilder trilogy fight, and every bit of noise I've heard from the Wilder camp and from the Fury camp is that fight will take place. So I think if both of those happen and Anthony and Tyson come through those, the positivity of what I'm hearing is that there will be fights, one, maybe even two, in 2021. And I think that all sides are now talking. I think there's a lot of mutual sort of acceptance that this is the fight that the world wants to see. It'd be the biggest fight in British boxing, certainly modern history, if not of all time. You go back to the sort of Lewis Bruno days, or your Clay and Cooper and loads of the big nights we've had, but it's got to be right up there, if not bigger, and an undisputed heavyweight championship of the world with all the belts on the line, as I said, if they can defend them. It's a big if, Fury's a big favourite and Joshua's a favourite as well against Pulev, but don't write Pulev off, don't write Wilder off with that power. So it's a big if, but I think if they come through, I'm very confident that will happen in 2021, yes.
Obviously, just listening to you there, Ben, do you think the likelihood is that we will see, obviously, Joshua Pulev and Fury Wilder 3 instead of maybe Joshua Fury?
I do. I think, as I keep going back to, the word is patience. People don't like it. People want everything to happen now or tomorrow. Bit of patience. We've been held up. There's a lot more important things going out in the world at the moment and going on. A lot of people are losing loved ones, and it's a very difficult situation out of there. And the most important thing is for everyone to keep healthy and as safe as possible in the weeks and months to come. So there's some patience. There's some reality here. We don't have to rush. It's not going anywhere. If both of those fights happen and they win, then Joshua Fury, Fury Joshua, however you want to look at it, will happen. I've no doubt about that. People are talking now, and I think it will happen. But yes, I think it's probably right that the two fights that were done pretty much, one for Spurs, that obviously probably won't happen there, and one for Vegas, and who knows whether that will be in Vegas or whether it will be elsewhere around the world. We expected the third fight to be in America, but let's see. I think that wherever they are, both of the fights, they will happen before the end of the year. And I think next year, 2021, could be, Andy, and we always say could be, one of the biggest boxing years we've ever had, because I can see Joshua and Fury happening once, maybe twice, and who knows? Can we dream of a trilogy as well between the two big guys? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Two totally different characters, two totally different styles, two guys on top of the world. We dream, don't we? Well, I think, Andy, that dream becomes a reality in 2021. Fingers crossed. But then I thought Mayweather Pacquiao would happen 5 years before it did. So, maybe I haven't got the crystal ball, but I'm looking at the crystal ball now, Andy. I'm thinking, and you are as well. We're hoping. Come on, let's give it some positive vibe. Fury Joshua, Joshua Fury, Fury Joshua, Joshua Fury. Maybe there can be 2, 3, 4 of them to keep us through 2021 and 2022. But a lot's got to happen before that. Step at a time. Patience. Boxing will be back.
100%, Adam. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's as desperate as you are, as what I am, to see that fight. My final question before I do let you leave. Back in must have been March now, when we had the White Povetkin press conference at the announcement, you mentioned to me you was in talks with Eddie about extending your deal with Matchroom, and you was also looking to extend your deal with Anthony Joshua. With obviously everything that's going on at the minute, have those talks continued? Have they stalled? Where did everything kind of land with it all in the end?
I think we need to get boxing back first and foremost. We're very in a very close and great relationship, as always, with Matchroom, and we're learning even more about each other on a daily basis. So that can only be a good thing for the future. But let's get boxing back, and let's worry about this year before we get on to anything else.
Adam, we'll leave it there now, because I know you've got a few things to do. I appreciate you giving up some time today, though. Stay safe, and hope you and your family come through all this unscathed, and the rest of the team. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Stay safe, everybody out there. Andy, take care. Speak anytime, mate.